But digressing, let's get to the number one topic of the day in the last 24 hours or so of the boxing world, which is the Deontay Wilder-Luis Ortiz fight. Per Mike Coppinger, sources, PBC is finalizing a deal for Fox pay-per-view to carry Deontay Wilder's heavyweight title rematch with Luis Ortiz on November 23rd in Las Vegas. Showtime shelled out a hefty license fee for Wilder Brazil and hoped to land the fight on its pay-per-view arm. Announcement expected Saturday. Now, unfortunately, guys, this is where it gets a little sad. And we're going to get Steven Espinoza's exact reaction from this and his exact quotes from this. But you guys know, when anyone is either sad or angry, it's dramatic reading time. And when they're sad, it's more like sad reading time. Showtime Espinoza's Wilder Ortiz pay-per-view deal didn't make sense for us, per Keith Idek. Full quote. We had the opportunity to distribute the pay-per-view, but the deal didn't make sense for us, Espinoza told Boxing Scene on Tuesday. Obviously, we love Deontay Wilder, and we believe Wilder Ortiz will be an exciting fight. But we're not going to take disproportionate risk in order to secure it. We know the boxing market has been undergoing significant change, but that's not unprecedented. Over the years, we've seen a lot of newcomers enter the sport and try to change the marketplace. We were here before that, we will be here after that, and continue to thrive by making smart, strategic choices at the right time. Going further along, whether it's sports or entertainment, there are times when you have to pass on a certain deal, whether it's a film or a TV series or sports rights. And sometimes the best deals are the ones you don't make. That can be disappointing. When you have to let a fight go somewhere else, that's the nature of the beast. We're disappointed, of course, because of our long relationship with Deontay. But we'll continue to focus on delivering the best boxing on TV for subscribers and delivering when the time is right, the sport's biggest pay-per-views like we've been doing. He continues, we've been in this sport for a long time, Espinoza said. We understand this sport as well as anyone. We have the best production, we have the strongest announcer team, we know the business, and we know how to make the biggest fights, and we've done more of the sport's biggest fights than anyone else. And we didn't become the industry leader and the sport's longest running platform by taking forced risk. We become the industry leader by making smart business decisions and smart strategic decisions. That's what the Wilder Ortiz rematch outcome was. A principled strategic decision for the long-term strategy of Showtime boxing.
Fuck that shit. Fuck boxing. Fuck boxing.
Now, here's my thoughts before, actually, a little brief point just to add to it, per Mike Coppinger, Steven Espinoza talking to him. Espinoza on what this means for Showtime's future in partnership with PBC. We are well into planning for first quarter of 2020, but this means the end of boxing. If this means the end of boxing at Showtime, certainly no one has told anyone around here any of that. Obviously, that is to be expected to push down any of the talking points out there, the narrative that Showtime boxing is going the same way of HBO boxing. Now, my thoughts on all of this. Now, I'll try to do my best to tackle it from each angle because there are separate angles to tackle this subject. On the Wilder Ortiz 2 deal and the illusion by Espinoza that it was too much money. Okay, that's basically what the illusion was. That the license fee for that fight was far too much than what they were willing to really offer up. And it was risky, to use the words that Espinoza used exactly. It would be risky for them long term to put that much money in this type of fight. Understandable. I think a lot of people actually would probably agree with Espinoza in that sense, right? However, coupled with the information we have been hearing from Lance Pugmire and others, that if this was to happen, this would cause a gigantic rift between Showtime and Haymon and PBC. As far as what I have seen from the attempted PR sort of spin that Espinoza has been putting out there, it really hasn't been, oh, don't worry, PBC is great. We love Haymon. We love Wilder. It's a little bit of, hey, we love Wilder. But to be honest, it didn't seem like trying to make clear to the public that this relationship was still tight. There was still a tight bond between PBC and Showtime. That to me was not clear in what anything that Espinoza said via Coppinger, via Keith Adek. Maybe other people have a different opinion about that, but from what I read, I don't get that sense. So the possibility that this leads to a permanent rift in PBC and Showtime long term, because obviously we have the Lubin Gachet card in October. There's a December 7th card. I think they want another card now because they have a lot more money in the budget not being put towards Wilder Ortiz. I'm expecting after this year for that question to truly be answered, what this relationship is between Showtime and PBC. And to be honest, it can't be good, guys. Like, there's no way CBS / Showtime are happy losing Wilder and Ortiz too, in any way. Even if it was, again, too much money for the asking price of that certain fight. Right? Especially in comparison or relative to the budget of Showtime, right? However, I think, or to add to it, I think we have a possible rift between Showtime and Espinoza, because there's no way I think that Showtime as a whole, their executive board is going to look at Espinoza, in any sort of good light at this point in time. You just lost us Wilder. What happened? You blew the budget on one fight. What happened here? And that one fight didn't even get us blockbuster numbers, really. It didn't even break 1 million. What's happening here? What's the strategy? It doesn't seem like there is one. And those two rifts, again, Showtime overall, CBS overall, and PBC, there's a rift between that. I think that's almost unavoidable. I think it's pretty obvious at this point in time. And a rift between Showtime and Espinoza is possible as well, because Espinoza is looked at to be the guy to get them the fights, and he did not get them the fight here. And this was a significant one to lose, in my opinion. Now, just to play devil's advocate, could I and others be blowing this out of proportion, and could Showtime do what they've done this year long term, and that just be their strategy, to be sort of the secondary wheel to PBC's apparatus in terms of their network priorities. And on top of that, to sort of show not necessarily regional fights, but in essence, kind of regional fights. I know people don't want to look at it into that context, but like the Erickson Lubin Robert Easter card has no championships on it. Great fights, competitive fights, but there's no championship on the fight. It's a regional U.S. card. Gervonta Davis, while world champion, a lot of his cards have been not that deep, and I would say specifically a regional card to the DMV area in a lot of ways. So I'm hesitant to go and say, yes, Showtime is, if I'm playing devil's advocate, I'm hesitant to go, oh, Showtime is safe, they're in the clear, don't worry about it. You guys are over concerned, because I don't know if their current content base is enough to, again, sort of get rid of that tension and rift between Showtime and Espinoza, because there's no way they're looking at this and saying we're getting our bang for our buck. And to combine it with other things I've brought up in the past and other shows, other videos, go look them up on our channel. I've talked about the Viacom and CBS merger, and Viacom owning or being a majority owner of Bellator MMA, the second biggest MMA promotion. And that president of that MMA promotion, Scott Coker, used to be the president of Strikeforce MMA, which was on Showtime. And that built up Ronda Rousey, Daniel Cormier, Luke Rockhold, Gilbert Melendez, Nick Diaz in a way. So there's a lot of, excuse me, there's a lot of potential combat sports that they could still grab and appease a combat sports fan base, but a pure boxing fan base, I don't see this issue being remedied. The issue being all of PBC's big fights are going to Fox. That issue has been apparent and consistent all year. And to get off of the devil's advocate ban, because I really don't think that. I think this is a major concern for Showtime. I think there is probably, and honestly, there is rifts between all these parties right now. There has to be. And from the reports from Lance Pugmire and others, there are. I'm curious and I'm concerned for Showtime boxing, specifically its longevity, because they're not getting big fights. I don't know if this is enough to satisfy their audience and subscriber base that wants this type of content. One card, maybe a month, that really isn't the best, maybe doesn't even have a championship on top of it. Is that worth subscribing to Showtime alone? Maybe it's not. Maybe if there's other stuff you like on Showtime, it doesn't matter. But this is a major concern for Showtime, because I don't know if this issue gets remedied. It's clear Haymon and PBC are aware of the advantage of being on the Fox brand platform, and they seem like they want to hitch their wagon to that as long as possible. And I don't blame them. I think it's smart business. Rubisky in the chat saying, what happened to Strikeforce? It got bought out. The UFC bought it out, and obviously it folded the company. So that's what happened to Strikeforce. All the fighters went to the UFC, for example. That's why we had Ronda Rousey in the UFC, Daniel Cormier, others. Digressing from that. Now, the fight itself being Fox pay-per-view, does that change the potential buy rate? I believe so, just like I think it will change the buy rate for Spence Porter if that would to be on Showtime pay-per-view. I think it would get less buys because the Fox machine is a better machine, clearly. And on top of that, I would say, surprisingly speaking, I think Showtime, overall, their production quality and the people on their team, at least on camera, are far better than Fox. But there is a real sense of fans over there at Fox. You get a sense whoever is in charge of the Fox Sports PBC account is truly a fan of the game. You can just tell there's fans over there to some degree. Maybe too much of fanboys. But digressing from that point. John in the chat, the thing about Showtime, though, majority of their subscribers are from other shit, like their TV shows. I literally subscribed to them before I even got into boxing years ago for Dexter. Yes, but, John, I think you're smart enough to understand that when we're talking about this discussion, we're purely talking about the people that subscribe to Showtime for boxing. Will this issue, because it is an issue, cause them to leave? And I think the answer is clearly probably yes. If you're not getting the content you are desiring, the content that you want, then why are you paying money to it? You're going to stop paying money to this service. Point blank and simple. Now, of course, Ajani, I'm not saying Showtime as a whole is gone. I'm purely talking Showtime boxing. Because let's be honest, Showtime sports is a different thing entirely as well. Showtime sports could be fine. If they get Bellator MMA, Showtime Sports, I think, overall continues to be okay. And on top of it, probably even thrives with MMA back on Showtime, more so than PBC. Might be controversial. However, I don't think all this happens quickly and close enough together. This Viacom CBS merger / Bellator moving to Showtime and PBC leaving Showtime to be close enough to where there aren't issues with losing at least a percentage of your subscriber base. Wherever that percentage is, I don't know. I don't think... Ooh. If anyone in the chat that can remember back when the big Showtime press conference, right, and Espinoza had the PowerPoint of all the data and statistics of basic consumer consumption, right, of sports entertainment in the U.S. I wonder if there was any slide on what percentage of Showtime users watch boxing or percentage are subscribed to Showtime purely because of boxing. I wonder what that percentage is. Don't know what it is. It could be 5%. It could be 10%. It could be 20%. It could be 50%. I don't know. I have no idea. But I think regardless, Showtime's fine. Showtime Sports and Showtime Boxing, very different things entirely. like Sitting on a Hill with Kevin Bacon. Great show. But that has nothing to do with their sports department. Point blank and simple. Andre Diacono. What up, Andre Diacono? Longtime supporter and listener of the show. Hope you're doing good, man. Been a while since I've seen you. How is this fight profitable for Wilder on a pay-per-view? Would he make less than the DAZN deal? Guaranteed, absolutely, he would make less because DAZN's up money. It's an up money deal, right? So upfront, guaranteed, disclosed money, absolutely. Back end money included. Probably not. But then again, I don't know here. This is the weird case here where because of the U.S. model, there is a level of just dark money in the sport that gets exchanged that we just don't know about. And I'm assuming that the Wilder Brazil license fee, the purses, were far more than what was disclosed. Because what was disclosed wasn't that much. And to the degree that it is clear Wilder Brazil affected Showtime's budget and Showtime Boxing's budget. Want to make that clear for anyone out there want to argue semantics here. Showtime Boxing's budget and their long-term schedule of the year. I don't know what that figure is. It clearly was a lot more than what was listed. And we know that for every fight. Every big fight's like that. It's always been that way. I'm assuming Wilder Ortiz, if it's Fox, I mean, look, they're going to do 300,000 pay-per-view buys at least, guys. So they're going to break even no matter what. And he's probably going to make 10, 15 million, maybe 20 million. When it's all said and done, we include back-end money, international distribution rights, gate revenue percentage split, souvenirs, or what would be the right term? Like shirts, apparel, any sort of like that. He gets probably a cut of that in the arena. Concessions maybe as well. These big guys usually get a cut of everything. That was like the Mayweather deal. He got a cut of everything. You bought a beer at the arena. Mayweather's getting a cut of that. I assume Wilder, at least to some degree, is similar to that at this point in time. So he's making a lot of money. Does it all come from Showtime? No. Or in this case, Fox, right? But, sorry to answer your question. I know I've done the long ranting way of doing it, Dre. I apologize. But upfront money, of course not with DAZN. But back-end money, it probably evens out. Rob, your just initial thoughts on the news. Wilder Ortiz 2 being Fox, pay-per-view, not on Showtime, and Showtime passing on it, according to them.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of knew this was coming. We've been reporting this for, Mike Coppinger's been putting stuff out there, and then there was Lance Pugmire in the Q&A. He gave out that it looks like they're going to announce it on Spence Porter fight night, which lends itself to think Fox are announcing it on Fox because it's on Fox and things like that. So that part's no surprise. But I mean, as far as Espinosa walking away, I'm sure that's the case. Although we did hear they were supposedly battling it out. I don't know why it's taken till the week before they're going to announce it to decide we're walking away. Surely they can run the numbers and figure it out. I mean, I know Legendary Box is going to love this, but maybe it is understandable if Eddie Hearn today quoted as saying that Fox are going to be $10 million in the hole for putting this fight on. And then Stephen Espinosa, that's great business. Then although you'd love to keep Wilder, you'd love to keep putting Wilder fights on. As you've said in like interviews, you've had him from almost like Showbox through to now. But that's not good business if you're going to lose potentially $10 million on it. Maybe it's not, I'm sure Eddie Hearn's maybe overdoing that, but didn't the Boxing Scene article say industry insiders suggest that this is going to do less than Wilder Fury. This
Yes.
less numbers, even though it's on Fox.
Yeah.
So is it going to be sub 300? I don't know. Always pay-per-view guesses are always, I don't know,
A shot in the dark usually.
Yeah, so
there's a range usually we can guess from, but that still is a range.
Yeah.
There's a significant range usually in what it is.
And
but quickly, just want to add
Sorry.
briefly. Espinosa did say that what Eddie said in the, I think it was a Boxing Social interview, or was it IFL?
IFL. Or is this from the Benson? What Benson put out? Because he was also talking to TalkSport that Eddie had said.
Okay, either Benson, Social, IFL, one of you three. You guys all are with Eddie. You guys know what the deal is. Espinosa did say that wasn't true. I just want to point that out just to give all the takes on this information. The 10 million, the fact that Showtime won't be working at PBC anymore, that sort of stuff that Eddie Hearn alluded to in that interview. Espinosa did say that wasn't true. And
although he did like it.
But he again, I don't know if he understands what the like button means. It's like the fucking gif from Princess Bride. I don't know if you know what that word means. But digressing, I think, largely speaking, right now, everyone cannot be trusted in what they're saying because they're in damage control mode. Like, in essence, Espinosa is. I would assume, and when we do hear from Wilder and his team, and they get asked about this, it's going to be framed in a political manner, of course, because I don't know if that threat, which I do believe was legitimate via the Lance Pugmire Q&A that we heard of via the source from Showtime, saying that if the Wilder Ortiz fight did go to Fox, PBC would be looking for another network, but they already have one. I believe that threat was made. I don't think they're ready to stand by that threat. I think they're waiting to see what this year does, how it pans out, and maybe see what that third fight is. If somehow, let's say, spitballing here, right? But let's say if Haymon gives them Leo versus Gary Russell for that third fight in December, does that appease Showtime enough to continue the deal going on in 2020? You know what I mean? Like, there are certain fights I think that that PBC and Haymon could give to Showtime for that third championship fight that would maybe appease this rift. Because to say that there isn't a rift, guys, it's just ignorant at this point in time. How could there not be? And to be honest, Espinosa coming out and saying that it's because of money, basically alluding to that, of course, but alluding that it is money being the reason that they didn't want to take this fight and the risk involved with it. You can tell that there is some tension there at some point. And I don't think they're ready to fully cancel this relationship because obviously they have more fights lined up. But
what is how much more is left of the deal? When was the new deal?
The new deal was signed last year. I don't know how long that deal was. I don't know if
so whether they can actually just say we don't want your fights. You're like contractually obliged to put on PBC cards. Maybe I don't know, or whether they can actually pull the plug on it. But I don't think like I say, this news doesn't make me think, oh, Showtime boxing is dead. It's that's it. They're going to flick the switch and no more boxing. Of course, they're going to still do it. But you've got to wonder what a relationship is. I know Stephen Espinosa is out there saying there's no rift, there's no this and that. But what do you want him to say? That fuck Al Haymon, fuck this, fuck this.
Yeah, he can't say that. But also, to your point about, like, what do they do next? Or what does Showtime do next? Showtime Boxing specifically. Because obviously they're not getting the big marquee fights they were accustomed to just a year ago. So how do they evolve their model in this new climate? Because I don't know if this gets remedied. I don't know if they start getting big fights consistently in 2020. I don't know if that's the case. There are two fights that they have on deck this year for PBC fights, because the Shields fight isn't a PBC fight, is the Lubin card with Robert Easter versus Granados as the co-main event, and the Jamal Charlo Dennis Hogan fight on December 7th. That's it. And I think we can all agree that none of those fights are really marquee in any way. And if you do, then maybe you're just too biased here, and you don't really belong in this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's difficult because it seems to be a big migration over to Fox, and I understand it. If you're the fighter, you want the biggest exposure. You're getting, I don't know, depends who you are, but there seems to be regular pay-per-view money, and your name is potentially becoming almost household, in certain. But obviously, if the Mayweather Showtime relationship is what we think it is and really super strong, I can see Tank Davis remaining with Showtime for the time being. Anyway, obviously we'll see what happens as regarding Showtime and their involvement in boxing. But I mean, Eddie, again, I'm just reporting what he said. But Eddie said today there was a insider sort of rumor that Fox didn't want Gervonta Davis. Initially, so I don't know quite what that means or why, but Eddie said to Coogan that's some kind of like industry insider. That was the gossip, that was the rumor. So I don't quite get where that's come from or why that's a thing. But Eddie did say that. I'm just
because he fought on the he didn't fight on the Fox portion of this card, but he fought on the Mayweather McGregor card, and that was a Fox co-network card, right? Am I wrong on that?
Maybe that was Showtime, no?
Well, no, because there was a Fox prelim, right? Mayweather McGregor, because of the UFC side. Remember, it was Showtime and Fox. It was a Showtime and Fox co-network.
Tank was like part of the pay-per-view portion, right? That would
agreed, but I still think Fox would have some dealing with him. They had to promote the pay-per-view card that included Davis. You know what I mean? Like it.
Yeah, maybe.
It's not like Davis has never been around Fox boxing. He has. It may not be directly. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm just saying like there's some history to it.
I don't know. Like I said, I was just putting it out there what he said, just so people, if they haven't seen it, that was on the IFL interview. But
I don't find that to make sense because Gervonta Davis is one of the bigger draws on PBC. Like he's one of their top 10 guys. If you
wonder if Mayweather was to say, "Cheers, Stephen, but I want Gervonta to get the biggest exposure he can, so we're taking him over to Fox." Is that like the double kick in the proverbial lower half?
Well, if these names are Fox fighters, Wilder, Broner, and Davis, then we can have that conversation.
Yeah.
But I mean? those are the three names specifically that Showtime has built their model around in the last couple of years.
Yeah, so I don't know, but quickly going back to the money that's going to have to sort of generate from this fight. Remember, Ortiz turned down. He told you, Matt, he was going to expose Team Ortiz, and
well, he didn't tell me. Oh, you mean Eddie? Eddie.
Oh, okay. When you spoke to Eddie, what did he say? He's going to. I can't remember the exact quote, but he told you basically he's going to let it all come out.
Eddie says.
So he did, and we've had Wilder's Ortiz team confirming the numbers. So was it 7-8 million?
I think it was like 7.
7. So to walk away from a Joshua fight for 7 because he's promised the Wilder fight. So is he still getting 7? And obviously Wilder's going to want, his big. There was the 20 offered for the Brazil fight on DAZN. Showtime managed to, pay all that to keep him happy for Showtime, and now gone over to Fox. So Fox has got to find this money as well. I don't know, but obviously now they're not doing the Wilder thing. There's money in the budget, so Showtime has still got some fights to put on. But like you said, it's not really the marquee. It's not the Showtime with the great production, the analysts and the panel, which is sort of highly regarded, I guess, within the industry. But they're not covering huge events, and that's what people have come to expect from Showtime, right? So I don't know.
Think about the biggest PBC fights this year. Other than one, they've all been Fox fights. Except, Pacquiao Broner was also this year. I thought it was last year. Except for 2, they've all been Fox fights. We've had Wilder Brazil on Showtime and Pacquiao Broner be a Showtime pay-per-view. Other than that, the Showtime schedule hasn't been great in terms of marquee fights, and Fox has grabbed all the big names.
Why do you think CBS haven't kind of stepped up and helped out with this? Are they not sort of? Do you know what I mean? Aren't they like the owner of Showtime or something? Yeah, a big powerhouse.
So
You know.
from what I remember, the original head of CBS, I'm trying to remember his name, but they got fired for misconduct, right? They were caught up, I believe, in the whole Me Too movement, and that person was the big boxing person on CBS. So when they left, it felt like, I think for a lot of people, when they sort of noticed it, that the lack of drive for boxing from CBS, because there was no longer that person within CBS that was pushing for this sport, to be honest. I believe that's how it went. I forget the exact particulars, but I believe that's why there was this lack of push from CBS after there was a start of it. I mean, let's not forget, there was CBS fights, and it seemed like we were heading in the direction of, the big fights were going to CBS, and the rest of the fights would be on Showtime. And that never happened. And that coincided with this removal. I believe it was, who was the person's name? Someone in the chat might remember, but I forget the person's name at CBS. But when they got removed from CBS, that stopped. And I think also you saw Haymon and Co. looked, who else was going to provide us money, because we need cash flow, so to speak. And Showtime isn't enough. But to that point, because Aficionados, Evan, good friend of the show, he alluded that two narratives would sort of spring up from this, and one of them would be the dominant narrative going forward. And one of those narratives was that Haymon planned this out, so to speak, that Haymon sort of foresaw, in a way, that's a little bit hyperbolic term, but he could sort of see that the market was shifting, and he realized that Showtime was going to go the way of HBO, and that's why he went to Fox, and that's why he went so hard in terms of putting all of his content and fighters onto the Fox brand and platform. Do you think there was because I don't go as far as that, but do you think there was a thoughtful, intentful approach in the prioritizing of Fox, or did it just happen organically that we got to this point?
I don't know. Part of me feels like this is
and quickly, very very quickly, guys in the chat, everyone remind me. Les Moonves, whatever that person's name is. Yes, that was the person. Thank you, guys.
Oh, okay.
I'm not gonna try to pronounce that last name again.
Moons. I don't know. I don't know. Part of me feels like, because look, all I hear is Al Haymon is like the smartest guy on the planet. Like, that's
clearly is. I mean, he's been part of the biggest fights in the sport.
Yeah. So like a real switched on guy. So is this all completely deliberate and a plan? Like almost a reaction to DAZN coming in, obviously having to make a splash with huge money.
And on top of that, ESPN jumping back into the fold, HBO leaving, like that all happened at the same time, guys. That was a lot of movement. I just want to, again, set the table. Continue.
Yeah, look, I remember at the time, like obviously, Eddie doing a bunch of videos, even Aaron was joining in, kind of saying HBO is going to be gone. And it did. And then they turned and said it's Showtime. And I ain't saying it's gone, but you're not going to say Showtime looks in complete tip-top health right now. But Al has sort of made a counter sort of, plan B almost. But his plan B has very quickly become plan A. And Showtime have become plan B in sort of, in my eyes. I'm not saying this is 100, I'm not doing the DAZN thing, but there's, like you said, there's a timing thing where this is all kind of meshed together because, Eddie Hearn, I got $1 billion to come out and do this, $1 billion deal. And it was all the $1 billion this, $1 billion that.
And just to remind everyone,
Al Haymon PBC announced, this Fox deal worth, hundreds, what was it? 120 million or something. I can't
It was a
remember.
lot. It's a lot. I don't want to say it's that much.
And Showtime extended for another amount, and it was like almost like a counter, like a counter left hook or something. Like, yeah, all right, you've got that money, but
Well,
we're good.
remember at that time when the DAZN deal hit, I was out there screaming at the top of my lungs, "Go out there and get a war chest!" Like DAZN, Eddie just grabbed a war chest. Everyone else has to grab a war chest, and at that same time, Top Rank and ESPN re-upped their deal, and it was a mega deal from what we heard. And on top of that, like you said, PBC got the Fox deal, and then they re-upped and increased their Showtime deal extremely from what we heard, like by 2 or 3 times the amount. So it seemed like this huge explosion in funding and networks. But sorry, to cut you off. My bad.
No, it's fine. Like you say, Showtime, wasn't it like 20 odd million, and now it's gone up to like 60 or 70?
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
Something like that. I'm sure someone in the chat knows the numbers.
Rough numbers at this point. We don't have the exact figures off the top of our heads.
Well, I think some know the exact ones. Been quoting them since it happened. Yeah, so I think everything's all linked to, like I say, the sort of DAZN coming into the market, throwing big money around, and everything's kind of been a reaction to that, and rightfully so. It's a good business move. Otherwise, if obviously we know Al Haymon fighters love Al Haymon. He looks after his fighters, and they seem to be very much like Al Haymon fighters.
Yeah.
I think they know
from everyone I've talked to, like Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, Earl Spence, the guys that we often talk about as Al Haymon guys. The way they talk about Al Haymon, the specific examples they've given me in terms of how he has helped them individually in investing money outside of boxing and being financially stable outside of the ring, I understand why. Because he does act as like a personal, like, financial advisor on top of...
He's a manager.
Yeah, he is a manager, technically speaking, but he does a lot more than other managers. Because trust me, you know what I mean? Like, he fulfills a lot of roles that back, 10, 15, 20 years ago, you would have to have 5 other people do, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, look, he bought out Ruiz's remaining contract from ESPN, right?
Yep.
And Tim Smith said the other day when Ruiz came over to PBC, he was looking for somewhere to stay. He didn't. Things were pretty bleak.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
They took him in, they paid off his contract or whatever, and now look, rolling with the Rolls Royce Phantom or whatever it is, and the mansion and the jewelry, as Eddie keeps like to point out. Look at you with your jewelry and that, but no, good on him, And like I say, Al Haymon's afforded him that opportunity. He didn't stop Ruiz trying to go and win the bouts.
Nope.
I think at the right time, I think Al is willing to let his fighters go elsewhere. Certain fighters, I don't know about all of them, maybe, but
a vast majority, yes. Yeah, vast majority, yeah.
So, but I do feel
a quick example, like the Luis Ortiz one with AJ. Like, we all know that wasn't Heyman's fault. That was clearly what was the other promotional company that?
Shit, I know what you mean. I can't think now.
And Luis DeCubas Jr. Like, it was a lot of other people involved that like fucked up that scenario, and it seems like that's a situation that does happen time and time again, where it's not necessarily these individual people, like Eddie, for example, that's fucking up a fight, or maybe Bob Arum specifically are fucking up a fight. It's these managers, agents, other people involved with the teams.
I've heard Eddie say it. I've heard, I think, Frank Warren say it. I've seen a number of people said it would be so much easier if we didn't have to go through managers sometimes, like just to get things done.
Managers are important, but they are just it's another wall to get through for fight negotiations.
Yeah. I mean, look, Eddie had a run-in with a female fighter manager just recently, trying to get his girl to rematch. I mean, fair enough, but like, you're there. You've obviously agreed shit. You flew over to try on the table. But anyway, sort of getting off the point. But yeah, Showtime.
Let me ask a question just to sort of circle up the conversation, then we're going to jump off. 2020, is the PBC Showtime relationship reinforced? Meaning, Is PBC going to now reinvest back into Showtime somewhat? Maybe not back to what they were. Obviously, they can't. They have another network now, but give them more fights than what they were accustomed to and what we were accustomed to in 2020. Or do we see a further deterioration of this relationship in 2020?
I really don't know, because we expected these fighters to chop and change, so go between networks. Like this week you're on, Fox. Next time you're on, there'll be. And listening to Espinoza interviews, it kind of felt like that. That's what we were going to get.
I think that's what he was led to believe for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure I heard an interview. Where was it on? Oh shit, I can't think now. But he seemed to think Pacquiao was a Showtime fighter. Like Pacquiao signing to Al meant he was definitely a Showtime fighter. And
Espinoza thought that?
Yes, I'm pretty sure. I'll have to try and find that just to check. But
because I didn't hear you. I thought you said Eddie said. I just assumed that's what
I know, Stephen. Maybe I did. I probably did. I just say it a lot. It's just the catchphrase. Well, Eddie said. Usually followed by I'm just saying what he said. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Stephen Espinoza was under the impression that Pacquiao was a Showtime fighter and he would be.
Don't worry, I'm still here. I don't know why my camera turned off. Don't worry.
I don't know either, but it kind of put me off. But
don't worry, I'm still here, baby. Don't worry.
As far as 2020, I really don't know. I think.
Come on, don't sit on the fence here, Fugatti.
Okay. It makes no sense in my mind for these guys that have gone over to Fox and got this great push, these great numbers, this, that, and the other, to then go back to the smaller network and lose what they've gained in a way by fighting on that network. So for me, Showtime will still be in boxing, but they'll be getting the likes of although I think the Lubin fight might be an eliminator. So maybe once he does get the championship fight, that will be on Fox. We invested in Lubin knowing he was going to get the big fight. And there he goes. But yeah, so I think that Showtime will remain doing the less marquee, the not so big fights. Personally, I hope Showtime still do a lot of the Showbox cards. We this year we've had a lot of next gen. Now I know a lot of people have said Saturday night fights have been a bit lackluster, and I agree they haven't been up to scratch. But giving the young talent that chance as well, getting TV experience, bigger shows for where they would maybe be on smaller shows, but getting that attention. I like the next gen, just like that's the idea behind Showbox, right?
Yeah.
So I hope they do a lot more of those. But yeah, I do see Showtime getting the sort of the crumbs of Fox's plate.
I agree. I will say I agree with basically how you put it. Like, how do you see what Fox has been producing for you and the advantages it provides for you, and want to go back to Showtime? Even though Showtime has the better production team, production quality, etc., but Fox is more people, more access, bigger marketing budget, clearly, bigger marketing imprint as well in the sports entertainment industry. That's a huge part. Showtime's ability to market and just their presence in the marketing space is very limited compared to Fox. So I don't know how you stop that. And to answer my other question I asked you about, is it organic what we have, the situation we have, or was it intended? Was this a planned maneuver by Haymon to invest into Fox and have Fox reinvest into PBC because that's who he's going to attach himself to long term, not Showtime? No, I don't think that's the case. I think this really did happen organically, and in large part for the reasons we brought up. Think about all the dominoes that hit really one after another, Rob. That, to me, was the reaction to that was getting Fox, getting that war chest, which was an organic reaction. I don't think that was a planned, intensive move to get rid of Showtime. It was an organic reaction to their market all of a sudden shifting. And then on top of it, I think really quickly in this deal, they realize, oh shit, Fox is great for us. We're going to make these two networks bid for everything. And guess what? Fox is going to win on all the biggest fights because they're the bigger network. And we're not the bad guys anymore if you're Haymon and PBC. We're just making them bid. It's capitalism, guys. And Heyman's a capitalist. So that's how he's going to run. And again, I think quickly it organically happened of, oh shit, Fox is now our priority. Because look at what they produced for us within a month, within 2 months, within 3 months. Holy shit. We thought the Spence Garcia fight was kind of going to be a dud, but it did gangbuster numbers. Wow. How can we turn this down? And then we saw that snowball continuing to roll downhill and continue to gain mass. In 2020, I think that snowball is going to continue rolling downhill. I think it's really hard to stop. It's going to take another seismic shift in the market for them to run back to Showtime and put on, Thurman fights on Showtime, put on Spence fights on Showtime, put on consistent Wilder fights on Showtime. No, these fights are all going to be bid up until they just get bid out of the market. They get outbid until they can no longer really compete, in my opinion.